Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Duval Dive. Of course, I am Kyle Nass, a student of the game.
And I'm Travis Holmes with BigCatCountry.com.
And you're listening to this thing on the Believe Podcast Network. Travis, it's Texans week once again for the Jacksonville Jaguars. An exciting thing for the AFC South and the Duval devout. Just a whole situation. We're not going to waste any time on this one. The keys to the game. A very simple outing here. So many injuries on both sides. That's the goal.
Survive.
Survive. So perfect. I and I apologize. I have to admit, I have not seen Tropic Thunder yet. I will put it on the list. But it's ironic that I make a Captain America quote when you show a picture of Iron Man in blackface. But the whole piece of Survive is basic comedy, but there's a whole serious thing. The good news, we'll lead with this. Devin Lloyd back in the mix. I'm sure everybody amongst the Duval devout and you Duval divers out there are excited about that. Uplifting things here too, as well. Patrick back.
You got Tim Patrick, you got Devin Lloyd. Like, those are the huge ones for this Jacksonville Jaguars roster right now, man. And yeah, you got you see the injury report. Like, again, on Wednesday, there are a few people that weren't there, but as far as the positives are concerned, that's a huge one. Again, the Devin Lloyd being a full participant earlier in the week, that's it. That's everything for me.
Yeah, well, and a couple other things worth mentioning as well. Ezra at Cleveland with a knee / an ankle there, did not practice on the offensive line. Jordan Lewis with a neck thing, just like not to be confused with Eric Murray. I feel like I have to point out here too, that's not something I'm necessarily stoked about. Hunter Long did not practice. He too is dealing with a little something after the play he made in the Raiders game. I know exactly which one he got hurt on. And of course, Brian Thomas Jr., not practicing this week. Word around the campfire is that he might be rested this week. We'll see what happens there. But anything else that jumps off here for you concern-wise? I feel like Diami will be back.
We shall see. Like, again, that's the question. And I mean, everyone around the team is saying it's a 50-50 chance. Where Brian Thomas is going to land, because you're talking about a low grade high ankle, and even any kind of high ankle, like, you generally want to let it heal so it doesn't linger into the season. So it's kind of one of those things where, to your point, that I'm hearing the same thing, like, they say it's 50-50, but you also feel like, knowing what the injury is and knowing that you don't want it to linger, then if you think there's a chance you can get that victory without damaging him any further, then you're probably going to rest him. So that's kind of where I'm thinking it's going to end up going. But overall, I mean, you didn't have Jordan Lewis, who has a neck / shoulder, whatever you want to call that. You got the, Brian Thomas, Ezra, and Hunter Long all not, being in the early portions of the practice on, I believe it was Wednesday. We'll see where they're going to play on Friday. Diami Brown started the week off in a non-contact penny, but at least he did practice in a limited fashion. So he has the concussion, so that's going to just be whether or not he clears in time. We'll see Friday, Saturday, how that goes. Dennis Gardick was also non-contact earlier in the week, but he feels like he's going to play at least. And really, the big ones that's kind of lingering up in the air are the BTJ, the Jordan Lewis, Ezra Cleveland, like. Oh, geez, that's and Hunter Long, even, because he's the only real tight end that's on the roster with Quentin Morris, injury, and I believe Quentin Morris was also
listed as full.
He was a full. So so you have 2 tight ends on the roster at that point. Then you're kind of limited. But who's the bigger one, like, for you? Like, the one that if you're missing, you feel like a little bit nervous. You got that lemon booty.
Oh, for me, it was Jordan Lewis. But then, I mean, getting Quentin Morris back too, to have the opportunity to run the 2 tight end sets as well, to help in the run game, where Travis, I think you certainly remember in the previous slobber knocker of a battle between the Texans and the Jags the first time around, the run game ended up being certainly a deciding element there too. And I mean, I would be remiss to not return to not only to our keys to victory, but once again to one of the overshadowing themes here on the show. Excuse me, on the show. Mega.
Mega's a huge one. It's going to be a huge one, but because Mega exists, that's actually why I'm more concerned about Ezra Cleveland uh,
Mhm.
as my question mark, we'll call it, on as my question mark on whether or not he plays, because we know we have depth on this offensive line that maybe that Jaguars and the surrounding, the fan base have all kind of seen it throughout training camp into the early portions of the season. Having Chuma Adoga, having Wyatt Milam, having both Cole Van Lannon, etc., as options that interior O line, to then turn around and have him be potentially injured, you feel like you should generally be good. But we also saw Cole Van Lannon struggle a little bit when he stepped in for Ezra Cleveland this past Sunday, and that wasn't a dominant Raiders O line or anything like that. Like, it's Max Crosby and company, and that wasn't a great performance. So I do have concerns there overall. So that's why Ezra Cleveland would probably be my biggest concern, whether or not he does or doesn't play, because I think he's still been a step up over the next guy behind him. And I don't that's not to demean those guys. But also, we didn't mention the Houston injuries.
Not
That's
yet.
another that's another positive for the Jaguars right now, at least from what it looks like. Don't have their image, but just let me give it to you. 7 starters were listed on that early week injury report, including quarterback CJ Stroud, who D'Amico Ryan's already said he was unlikely to play, with Davis Mills starting with his concussion. So you got Will Anderson, who's listed on the injury report with the quad. He didn't practice on Wednesday, also earlier in the week.
Yeah.
Um, right tackle Titus Howard, who's dealing with the concussion protocol. So he may have his backup, playing there. Blake Fisher. Jalen Petrie, the safety, is also in the concussion protocol. Nick Chubb has a foot issue. Uh, Kami Fairbairn, which is the kicker, has a right quad issue. So
Kicker's hurt. Good God.
the kicker was the only point scorer for the Texans in Week 9. He scored all 15 points, and he's dealing with the quad injury, so he won't play. So you know who the kicker is, though? Do you happen to know who the kicker is?
I don't. I don't.
Do you know? Do you know? You said UCF behind me?
Is it Matt Wright?
Former UCF and 2021 Jacksonville Jaguars kicker Matt Wright was signed to their practice squad on Monday and will be the kicker on Sunday.
Wow.
I just thought that was funny because, again, that was the only guy that scored for them last week against the Denver Broncos. And Jacksonville's kind of in a great situation to play Houston the week after they played the physical Denver team.
Yeah.
It may give the Jaguars a little bit of an edge, and especially with Will Anderson even remotely banged up with a quad issue. There's a lot going on there, bro.
It's crazy how many, like, since I've covered the Jaguars, even before we started doing the dive, who's it been? Shaquille Griffin, Falarantu Fatukasi, Kirk. You just mentioned Matt Wright. Yeah, right? So many, Cam Robinson, so many former Jags jumping over to Houston. It's funny to me how that works out. Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I guess these guys love that no tax life. I get it.
I mean, if you want to go back, far enough, Cecil Short's the third. Believe in Texans, by the way, here, keeping it in the family. So
keep all that money in my pocket. I do understand. And you did mention Mega as one of our keys to the game, but it says the offensive line needs to make Etienne great again. And I think I understand that, because the offensive line did not do Etienne all the favors that I thought that they would have done this past game. And I know folks are going to be like, well, no, Etienne had like 80-something yards rushing, 22 carries. Like, that feels like it was a reasonably stout game. And I watched the film and I did not agree. I thought Etienne was doing a lot of heavy lifting there. Like, there were multiple plays, and I don't mean like 2 or 3, where Crosby and the other Vegas defenders were like 2 yards in the backfield, pressuring the running back after knifing it in, and Etienne just found ways to create positive gains, man. I
remember him swiping like Crosby away on one play to escape. I think where part of it is too, really quick, because it wasn't the Rams or Seahawks line, it was somebody that was more back down to earth compared to them. It might have felt like they did okay. But to your point, I definitely see some interesting stuff there too, as well. I don't know how much of it was scheme and allowing a Raiders defensive line that's pretty aggressive to over pursue and create openings, but there was a lot of things where Etienne made some moves and did some things happen.
I watched. You know me. I don't generally pay extra attention to the offensive line unless I thought it was an issue. And I've done it on 3 games this season. This was one of those games where I went back and literally took 3 hours just looking at offensive line play, rewatching plays over and over and over, and just like, dude, this is crazy. And I mean, overall, blown run blocks, because people kept telling me how good of a game, quote unquote, they thought Walker Little had. Just looking at the passing game and looking at the pressures given up and things of that nature. And then I'm like, dude, in the run game, it was not it. And that's where I really struggled watching the tape. Walker Little and Ezra Cleveland on that left side of the offensive line truly struggled to play off of each other. Like, they struggled with their run combination blocks where you get 2 guys on one defensive tackle or 2 guys on one defensive edge. They get their hands on him while the other guy's trying to scrape up to the linebacker or come off him. And that way, that communication, climbing the ladder, it happens so frequently where either one of them just missed their block outright, or the other one just missed passing the defender off to the other one, and he's just kind of knifes in between both of them and gets to the running back. And I'm just like, dude, they have got to do better there, because Walker Little and Ezra Cleveland both tied with 3 apiece and blown run blocks. And again, I think I grade these very, very lightly, very liberally. And they still both got 3. And then when Cole Van Lannon came in replacement of Ezra Cleveland, he got 2. And his snaps were much lower than the rest of those guys. So overall, they had some struggles in the run game. But when I say I felt like it was all Etienne, it was Etienne, depending on your source, had anywhere from 9 to 12 missed tackles on Sunday with 22 carries. That is crazy. Like, that's why I felt like he was a player of the game, because he was doing a lot of it, making it happen, by himself. And that cannot be a sustainable thing for this Jacksonville Jaguars offensive line and its run game operation.
Sure. No, I didn't know it was as rampant as those numbers describe, but I did definitely see there was too much silver and black in the backfield on a lot of those running plays. I'll absolutely agree with elements of that. And like I mentioned, if you have a dude that can stave off the grasp of Max Crosby, that's amazing in itself.
Yeah, man. So that's the big one. I'm like, make Etienne great again. And I do mean that on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I had a different one where I was like, oh no, I do need the Jaguars to play it safe in the red zone. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about, Travis? Like, what do you play it safe? Like, you guys know me. I'm not a play it safe type of guy. That's not who I am at my core. I'm a F them picks and be bold and everything else that the Gladstone catchphrase, pull string catchphrase comes out, kind of thing. But no, my favorite play from Sunday, I need folks to see it because it's probably don't even register in your brain. But my favorite play for the Jacksonville Jaguars on Sunday was this bat boy on 3rd and 6 in the red zone, where Trevor Lawrence just gets a 1-yard gain on 3rd and 6. Just a 1-yard gain on 3rd and 6. And well, Travis, why is it your favorite play? I don't know. I don't understand. Because nobody's open. Because nobody's open. I need you to see this play. Nobody's open. Trevor Lawrence has an opportunity to squeeze the ball into that hole where Brian Thomas Jr. is coming across from the bottom of your screen and potentially throw an interception, potentially have a ball tipped up in the air, potentially turn that thing over. And there's nothing, and he just goes and just takes the yards that he gets. It doesn't take a sack, doesn't lose yards, doesn't throw a bonehead play. He just plays it safe and ends this bad boy with a field goal. And that, to me, is growth. And that's what I want to see. Because sometimes it's just best to, sometimes it's just best to take the easy points. And that's kind of where I am with this bad boy. Like, I think because you're playing against a Houston Texans team that just lost a very close game to the Denver Broncos in the defensive battle. And I think this may end up being something very similar to that, unless you give them those opportunities to make this game, not be close. Like, unless you give them an opportunity, like in past years, where you're giving them turnovers and you're setting your defense up in bad situations. I think if you play it safe and you end this thing with field goals, you're probably going to walk out winning this thing by double-digit points, because you don't expect their offense to be explosive with Davis Mills quarterbacking, right? That's where I'm at.
No, I think all that's great. I think when you were playing it, I'm over here biting my tongue not to shout out because he did throw an interception, forcing the Diaby Brown. That's why. So, I know, but I think that the growth statement is certainly a very powerful thing you dropped there. 100%.
Yeah.
I have nothing else to add to that. Period. Point blank. End of story.
Yeah, so that's really it for me. It was like the fact of the matter is I need the Jaguars to not have those red zone turnovers, not have those bonehead plays, not have those crazy false starts and everything else, but just playing smart NFL football, efficient NFL football. And I think just doing that, they'll walk out of this game with a victory and a sweep of the Houston Texans.
They would have survived and not done their best to keep them alive as well, right?
Yeah, destroy the season, sweep the leg. I'm here for it. No, but we already talked about making Etienne great on the ground because Etienne seems to already be great on his own dang self. But that's offensive line earlier. But also making Etienne great in the air. And I mean, what am I talking about? Obviously, Travis Etienne catching the ball out of the backfield is going to be a huge opportunity for the Jacksonville Jaguars in week 10. Like after RJ Harvey caught 5 catches for 51 yards and a touchdown against Houston in week 9, the Texans have given up 50 yards in the air to opposing running backs 2 weeks in a row. They also had Christian McCaffrey the week before that. Like they're now showing those chinks in the armor, those cracks in the armor, in their passing game, in their defensive receiving game from the backfield, basically.
And further augmented, like here's why that's the biggest deal too, man. I got to bring this in from the top rope with all the receiver injuries, Jacoby Myers, how ready he'll be after this trade, and BTJ might be resting, all of these things. And by the way, Brenton Strange still out. You need something to check down and throw to.
Well, but that's the big thing because folks have not probably noticed that quietly this Houston Texans defense has been like really dang good.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think folks know it, but they forget it because they've been losing so many games because their offense has just been so horrendous. And you don't expect that to improve very much. With CJ Stroud hurt, on that point, and potentially even Nick Chubb dealing with his own injury. But overall, that defense is a game-changing defense in and of itself, and they're losing a lot of close games. So from looking at it from that perspective, I'm just like, no. I need you guys to understand playing it safe matters, but also if there's an opportunity that exists, I think that's it. They've shown the ability to struggle on occasion, just stopping these guys out of the backfield. So if you find those edges, this is it. The Jaguars just this past week with Travis Etienne had another good game out of the backfield. Keep leaning into that, right? If you keep leaning, like I believe Travis Etienne had like 35 yards receiving this past week. Continue leaning into that if you see the other team is struggling. So just like other teams have you on a whiteboard every week, and they'll say, all right, they struggled this last week. The Jaguars are obviously doing the same thing at midnight tonight. Liam Coen and Anthony Campanelli and all of those guys, those football junkies are in there with the same whiteboard saying, all right, they struggle with this, lean into that. So that's what I would need to see from Trevor Lawrence is giving the ball up to Bashaw Tootin, giving the ball up to Travis Etienne, giving the ball to these guys in space, and making that Houston Texans defense tackle these guys and continue just moving the ball downfield in that way. Whether you do it, if you can't do it in the run game, do it in the short passing game and allow these guys to break tackles.
I could see a screen being something utilized too to try to hide the weakness there at the guard position that could be popping up potentially with Ezra Cleveland being out. It's just somebody. Liam Cohen's going to find a way. I don't doubt it. But the air may be what he does. I think that's a good point.
Yeah, but then my biggest key to victory, and this is a much more involved conversation. So let's just get into it. Like you gotta learn from the past. And this is exactly what I was just talking about, that chalkboard conversation of what's happening in previous weeks. What has your team self-scouting? What has your team struggled with, the Jacksonville Jaguars? Because if you can figure that out, then you know exactly how this team is going to attack you this week, Houston. So for instance, we have the game tying, well, potentially should have been game tying touchdown from the Raiders on Sunday, which was the touchdown against Dewey Winger from Brock Bauer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Play looks familiar, right? Play looks familiar, right? So this is the game. This is the overtime touchdown by Bowers over Dewey Winger, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reason that play looks very familiar because it's the exact same play that the Rams ran against the Jaguars the week before the bye week. It's just the only difference is it was in a split. It was in a condensed formation when the Rams ran it in a different personnel package. That was it. Literally the exact same play. They just ran it higher towards the edge of the end zone instead of across the end zone. Literally the exact same play down to the blocking of the running back. And I'm like, all right, so they obviously saw that this was an opportunity for them on the tape. They attacked the Jaguars, just in that same way. They attacked their communication. Dewey had bad leverage on the outside, and also there seemed to be no inside help. I
Yeah.
thought that was weird. Like someone may have messed up, made a mistake in that way. I want to say busted the coverage or mental assignment or mental error or something like that. But nevertheless, something was blown on that play, and I'm just like, all right. So obviously, what did you struggle with this week, Jaguars? You gotta figure that out because they're going to continue attacking you, just like the Rams attacked the Jaguars after the Seahawks showed them that they could not. After the Seahawks showed Jacksonville, the Jacksonville safety core could not guard tight ends. The Rams then ran the exact same play the following week. Now
Uh-huh.
you have the freaking Raiders with the game on the line running the exact same plays that the Rams ran against the Jaguars. And you're going to have that cycle continuing to go over and over and over until you prove that you can stop these guys.
And you know what learned from the past looks like, by the way? It looks like a 99-yard touchdown return by Devin Lloyd because Patrick LaVon Mahomes II and the Chiefs were trying to take advantage of something that had worked against them previous. But Devin Lloyd said, not in my house. I've seen you try this on film. I'm not doing it here. Learning from the past is something that could render dividends. By the way, another opportunity mentioned Devin Lloyd coming back. So, hey, I'm not saying you'll see another 99-yard touchdown return on an interception from Lloyd, but this is the kind of thing, that's the kind of stuff you need to see from this group in the red zone. I completely agree with that.
But also, this is the other part of this. When I say learn from Sunday. So now they might not agree with me, and that's okay. I'm not a NFL football coach. I'm not even a college coach. I was only a graduate assistant. Like I get it, but they got to learn from Sunday as far as how they attacked Geno Smith. So if you've seen the passing charts from how the game went on Sunday against the Raiders, you see that basically Geno was not attacking them down the field. It was everything 10 yards and under. Maybe ever so often they'll get one pass here and there that was around that 15-yard mark. But for the most part, it was all eating in that, again, the short range. If you're looking at this on SIS or on PFF, like nothing in the intermediate or the deep ball range, and just destroying the Jaguars in that way. Now, why do I mention that? Because I thought it was real interesting just how much the Jaguars sent extra men at Geno Smith in that game. Because we talked about it on Friday's Duval dive before the game that Geno was being blitzed at around 19% of his passes going into that week. And teams were very successful against him. Like he, for the most part, was struggling throughout most of the year. But then the Jaguars sent 4 or more rushers on 17 of Vegas's 39 pass attempts. They got pressure on just 5 of them. So that's 29.4%. That is 18th in the league for week 9. And I already said that teams were blitzing going into the week 9. Geno on 19% of his passes, and they normally would just go with 4 rushers and play coverage on the back end because the Raiders didn't have much to work with, and it generally worked. But they blitzed Geno on 44% of his passes.
Brock Bowers coming back, I think, had a lot to do with that because when you have that to check down to, that changes the game. And I think we referenced it here on Wednesday's episode that they got good tight ends upcoming too. So maybe when the check down options, granted, nobody's Brock Bowers, I don't think, but when you have a check down option that's formidable, perhaps a different strategy should be employed. I can see where you're going there.
But that's where I'm at. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, no, you play the guy. So this is where I'm split on this. Certain offenses and certain defenses are so dang good and so dang dominant where they can play their game no matter what, and they're going to dictate to the offense how they play. And I understand that philosophy when you have the dogs to make that philosophy come to life. But what I don't get is playing your game. If you've seen tape and you've seen the data that says another guy struggles doing something else, generally I thought you might want to do what he struggles with and make him prove that he can beat you versus you just doing the thing that you do and then he beats you doing because you're doing the thing that you do, if that makes sense.
It
So
completely does.
that's where I am with this. Again, if a guy has shown me that he struggles just against four rushers, then from my perspective, I'm going to do four rushers for a little bit. And I want to find out if he's going to be able to truly beat me for a full, I don't know, game, a full quarter, something before putting all these extra blitzers, because he burnt the Jaguars on multiple occasions. I had this conversation with Gus Logue on Duval 22 on whatever it was, Wednesday on his podcast. There was a few situations where the Jaguars sent 6 and 7 rushers, like the longer 17, 18-yard Brock Bowers catch in the middle of the field, where Jaguars just didn't get home. They blitzed him. No one got home because they had the extra blocker in the backfield, and he catches it down the middle of the field because it at that point, rush 4 play coverage, make Geno make a bad decision because he doesn't have the arm strength to kind of put it into the middle of those zones anyways. We talked about that also on Wednesday.
And listen, not for nothing, you have an X factor every week. You have preached to this choir that speaks directly to the pews of the church where my X factor lives. This pass rush has been awful compared to what we started out with overall. And this is, I think the reason why they're sending so many is I think Campanelli has the lemon booty with their ability to get an actual decent bit of pressure with 4 only. However, the good news is Trayvon Walker's getting more healthy. There's a possibility that Josh Hines-Allen will be battling a backup. I think they keep themselves aware of what's going on in the field, where their guys are better, where the Jags guys are better themselves, and try to leverage that rather than to use sheer numbers to overcome it there too. So I think I'm hand in hand with you right there. Getting pressure with 4 to me is the X factor for sure. And you had way more intelligent ways to put it than I did. So there you go.
No, you hit it on the head though. I mean, can they get home with 4 is the real question. And you're probably right on the why they may not be trying to go get home with 4. I mean, it's quite possible that you might be right on that lemon booty. But the reason I showed the chart for Geno Smith when we're talking about the Houston Texans is because I feel like this is going to be very similar to Davis Mills, because that looked very similar to the same passing chart. You see 2 more deeper passes.
Even just the one random long ball too. Oh my God, that's nuts!
So
it's just weird.
So this is Davis Mills against the Denver Broncos in Week 9. Now we don't have a lot to go off of from Davis Mills in 2025 because CJ Stroud existed until this week. Right. But nevertheless, I mean, Davis Mills struggled against Denver, obviously without a full week to prepare. He wasn't the presumed starter. He was obviously facing a much better Denver defense than the Jacksonville Jaguars defense has been over the last few weeks. But Anthony Campanelli now has a game of tape that shows what Mills struggles against. Unlike the Jake Browning situation in Week 2, where it was kind of a surprise, you didn't know, he got you with a few plays when you were trying to go man defense and blitzing. The Broncos blitzed Mills just 8 times in his 30 pass attempts, and they pressured him on only 1 of those 8. So just like Geno, Mills is another guy you don't have to blitz if you can reasonably get home with 4. And I'm not even saying quickly. If you can get home in less than like 3 seconds, for the most part, you're going to probably be fine against this guy. The question of the hour is, can Jacksonville get home with 4 or not? And if they can't, that's a core issue that's going to be a material issue for as long as, forever. We've been having this conversation for like 3 years.
The rest of the season, I think it'll be a theme too. Like if we were still in a world where the good, the bad, and the spotty still existed, this would regularly be on that list. I have a feeling, right? So I'm with you there too. We had mentioned that maybe the D-line was an opportunity missed at the trade deadline on Wednesday as well. That would be why.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So you already mentioned the X factors and things of that nature. Yeah. So who was yours?
Well, for X Factor? No, for me, like I
Yeah.
said, it was the defensive line, that 4-man rush. That's where I was at.
The 4-man rush in general was the X factor. So if, out of
I
that
mean, for
4-man rush,
me, go
yeah.
ahead. Yeah.
No, if you're talking about that 4-man rush, I'm looking directly at Trevon Walker, and I know he has the one hand, but now I can say he has a hand and a half because at least the club has the fingers out now, so he can, so he can grab things. Like, but if you're a power rusher and you don't have fingers, that's rough, brother.
That's
Like,
important.
I
No.
do get it.
Yeah, there's something to being able to control a guy's pads on the inside, so it's still legal, by the way. If you're just bashing and you can't control the same as if it's just a block on your hand. That's very real.
Right. So now that he actually has a hand and a half at least, and he's potentially going to be going up against a backup right tackle for Houston, Blake Fisher, because I'm assuming Titus Howard's not going to be able to clear the concussion protocol by Sunday. So then that's a pretty key X factor on that out of those front 4 rushers for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And on the other side of things, you still got the Jalen Petrie injury, where he's also trying to clear the concussion protocol on the backdrop of Parker Washington kind of having a really dominant game last week, and Coach Liam Coen stating that Parker Washington is going to continue manning that F role this past week. So even with Jacoby Myers in Jacksonville, he's going to be playing more outside while Parker Washington's going to stay inside. If that continues, whoever is going to be manning that slot role for the Houston Texans, whether that's Petrie or their backup, Parker Washington, you are absolutely my X factor moving forward.
That is a great call by you, sir. Another back-to-back. I wouldn't mind back-to-back weeks with Parker Washington shorts on the Duval Dive YouTube channel. I'm good with that. Make it happen.
Parker Washington shorts. I thought you were talking about Caesar shorts for a second, brother. All right, then.
They are playing the Texans. It's very confusing.
Parker Washington shorts, Lord. All right, so let's get the tail of the tape. But comparing the stats of the two teams, you got the Jacksonville Jaguars with 21.9 points per game against the Houston Texans, 21 points per game. So 24th in scoring versus 26th in scoring. Jaguars barely eked that one out. Passing yards per game, the Jaguars are 20th with 230 yards, and the Texans are 19th with 232.8. But obviously, that's still with CJ Stroud versus Davis Mills. I don't know
also
where that.
Playing from behind a lot too. Let's be clear, they ain't balanced like the Jags are. So
yeah. I mean, sure, we can go with that. You got the rushing yards per game, where the Jaguars are 15th now. I know we started the season off, being near the top of the league, and now that's slowly going down after that, 3-game skid, 3-game time frame where they struggle to run. 123 yards, 15th in the league versus the Texans, who are 23rd in the league with 108. Jaguars have 10 sacks, which is 32nd in the NFL. Yikes. That's rough. And the Texans are 23rd with 17. And to wrap that thing up, the Jaguars are 2nd in the league with 11 interceptions, while the Texans are 4th in the league with 9. So both teams like getting their hands on the ball. Like I told you, the Texans defense is not something to sneeze at.
Yeah,
that's why I say play it safe. But that's just me. Don't give them opportunities. So where are you going with your predictions, sir? These are you guys over at NFL.com giving us theirs.
Yeah, I like in general that a lot of the picks are 30 points or lower. Daniel Jeremiah, again, getting out the crack pipe for the 40 points. Apparently he didn't learn from the first Texan game, where I believe he had a 40-point total for that one, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not going to go full Bucky Brooks here on this, nor Adam Rank with, I feel like 30 and 27's the right area. That's yeah. And now that I actually, you know what, I'm going to change my answer too, because with a 68-yard field goal, perhaps a little of my faith in Cam Little's been restored too. So perhaps I'm inclined to throw a 24 out there. So yeah, for me, give me in my mind, I would have 24 24-7, I think. Yeah. I don't think the Texans are going to score very much.
7. So you have 24-7
I know it's
Jaguars
a
over the
30-point game, and I
Texans.
said I didn't like that, but I changed my mind.
So you have another. All right. So you have a blowout, a boat race by the
I do.
Jacksonville Jaguars. And I wish I was ready to say that, but I'm just not there yet. And again, I will try to stay even keel. I want to make sure I'm stay balanced on this bad boy. And we have 5 analysts versus 5 analysts truly split on this, whether or not the Jaguars are going to be able to beat the Houston Texans. And the reason for me being is if the Jaguars would have lost against the Raiders, I think folks would have been a lot more down on the Jaguars. But I think a lot of this is vibes, personally. Because I do think it's going to be a low scoring game to that original point. I thought the Raiders game was going to be a low scoring game. And for 3 quarters of that game, I was absolutely correct. It was a 6-9 game going into the 4th quarter. And I said it was going to be a 1-point loss against the Raiders and that's kind of how I was feeling for a moment.
You were right until basically the 4th quarter, right? Because I even came in and said Brock Bowers and Genty would both have a touchdown too if it went that way. Sure enough.
Yeah. So this is weird for me because again, I want the Jaguars to win. I love the Jaguars if they were to win this game, but also it's a backup quarterback. And this is one of those additional beasts, one of those additional dragons that the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to have to slay for me to truly believe in it, if that makes sense. I just told you about my qualms or my issues with how they prepared for Geno Smith. I still have my questions about whether or not they're going to prepare for Davis Mills in the way that I would think is the correct way for this. And I don't know how I feel about that. I got 17-16 Texans. I don't
care that it's a backup tackle. Don't care that it's Davis flipping Mills. I don't
care that it's a backup quarterback because we've struggled with backup quarterbacks in the first game that you see them so frequently in the history of this organization. It makes me crazy, including in 2025. So you can't even say it's just a former regime type thing. You can't just talk about the fact that it's a backup right tackle like we don't have a backup, like potentially a backup left tackle starting, or a backup receiver starting, or a backup cornerback starting, or backup other cornerback starting. Do I have to keep going? A backup tight end, maybe even a 3rd string tight end. Do I have to keep going? Like, there's a lot of what ifs on this field, and that's not just on the Houston Texans side. So I'm not crazy about any of this. There's a few ways this can go left. So I'm just like, hey, man, this is what I think. I would like to be wrong. I would love to be wrong. I hope they prove me wrong.
I will say 2 things. A, Travis, you need to stay away from the citrus because you very clearly have the lemon booty for this game. 2, I think you're still self-conscious about Tyler Dragon pointing out a few weeks back that you had picked the Jags all year up to that point. I think that's still in your head, Travis. What's going on? Davis Mills intimidates you that much? Devin Lloyd's going to be back too. I just can't do it. That's the whole reason. How often have I called a blowout on this show? This might be the first one I called for, certainly this season. So yeah, I'm not feeling the Davis Mills, and I think Devin Lloyd is going to be a factor.
I called a blowout for the Seahawks game, brother. I called a 10-point win for the Jaguars over the Seahawks, and that game didn't feel close. Not like it might have looked close on the final score, but it didn't feel close. Is my point.
Fair. That's completely fair.
So I'm just saying the Jaguars have to show me defensively that they can make it hard on the opposing team. And they did that for 3 quarters in this past game, but then that 4th quarter had me majorly concerned because it was way too easy for what I consider not a very good quarterback to move down the field, just nickel and diming them in a check down scenario consistently while they missed a lot of tackles in that same quarter. And then I have another quarterback that's showing up the next week that has that same exact profile of the quarterback you just struggled with. You got to show me that you can stop this other quarterback who looks very similar to the other guy you just faced before I'm going to believe that you can do it. I don't believe in you just because you wear teal. You got to show me, brother.
Okay. Listen, I hear what you're saying. What I will add is if not just your outcome, but your score, if it's that close like that, I am going to say both sides have more than 6 penalties.
I mean, that's been the vast majority of the Texans games in 2025.
Has it really? I hadn't looked, so.
Well, the vast majority of their games has been one score games. They just not been good offensively. Like they lost against the Rams in week 1, 14-9. They lost against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers by 1 point, 20-19. They lost against the Jaguars by 7. They won against the Tennessee Titans 26-0. They won against the Baltimore Ravens 44-10. They lost against the Seattle Seahawks by 8. And again, that's a very good Seattle team. I mean, you're with me there.
I think that was Nigma being shut down by those corners. We mentioned that about Seattle in the long ball.
They won against the San Francisco 49ers 26-15, and they lost to Denver 18-5 in the game where they were up until the fourth quarter, where Denver scored 11 of those 18 points in the fourth quarter. So I'm not crazy. This is what the profile is telling me. It's going to be a dogfight, but that's just because of the defense. I just don't know what to think about Davis Mills. So they give him any free lunches, it's going to be a problem. And that's kind of where I am. My main questions are on the Jacksonville Jaguars defense. Offense is probably going to play safe and probably be all right. But the defense, I got questions on whether or not they're going to give up any free yards.
Interesting. Well, the way the turns have tabled on that one, my friend, after the way this defense started. But I get it. Everything you're saying is not nonsense. So yeah, but you have been hurt before. I think that's the perspective you have in your pick, and I'm not even mad at you for it. But that being said, my friend, excellent time. Where can you be found?
You can find me on all my writings covering the Jacksonville Jaguars, bigcatcountry.com. Please head over to the site, save it as your favorites. You know what it is. But also on all the socials, Travis D. Holmes, or follow the Duval Dive on TikTok, on YouTube. If you're listening to us on YouTube, obviously, please click that like button. Please click that subscribe button to get those notifications. Again, it helps you out tremendously, but it helps us out tremendously also because, again, these podcasts are normally about 20 minutes long, but somehow we always hit 40 because these comments are always so great. And that's just because you guys are ball knowers and you continue giving us more content to talk about than we even have time for. We love you guys and we appreciate you. But yeah, like and subscribe on the YouTube. Rate and review us wherever you catch your, the audio, wherever you pod. Thank you guys over the Believe Podcast Network, and let them know where you can be found, sir.
Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as the student of the game. Check out my writings with the black and gold banneret, because as you listen to this live, where we're airing it and releasing it and all that other stuff, that night, Friday night, Space Game, UCF hosting Houston. That should be fun. I will be there with the black and gold banneret, and for post game with the Night Shift podcast on the Night Shift YouTube channel. Of course, my work with the Bolt Blitz Uncut, the Los Angeles Chargers show with Booga Peters, 80 Simons, and company there as well. Travis, another fun one. I will be here with broom in hand, if I'm correct, for the sweep of the Texans. But yeah, it's not even Halloween. I'll have a broom. It'll be interesting. But until next time, everyone, for my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes, for all you divers out there, this is Kyle Nash, the student of the game. Until next time, everyone, class dismissed.